All right, sixth graders, we are here with Northern and Southern Europe Lesson 3, last one for this region, life in Northern and Southern Europe. Our essential question, how do new ideas change the way people live? We've got our terms to know. Again, we have this table, and just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and have you guys skip this. When we get to our next area, stuff like that, when we can get everybody on the same page and stuff like that, both figuratively and literally, we will be able to go through these as a class. All right, let's turn this over and get started on number 1. All right, number 1, how does a high standard of living affect people in Northern and Southern Europe? So, when you have a very high standard of living, people themselves live longer, so you have longer life expectancy. You also have a higher infant survival rate, so babies live. And I know that sounds simplistic, but in places in the world, that are very, very low standard of living, in some parts of East Asia, Africa, and parts of Latin America, babies, when they're born, pretty much regardless of where they're born, sometimes only have maybe a 65% survival rate of getting to like toddler age. So that means there's a lot of young babies that are dying off for basic diseases and things like that. Number 2, what percent of the population of Greece lives in cities? What percent in Spain? So what you'll find in Europe, unlike parts of the United States, most of Europe's population is going to live in big cities. Not as many people live in rural areas as you have in Texas. Seguin would be considered a rural area because we're not very large. So in Greece, you have 60% of the people living inside of cities. In Spain, it's even higher. It's at 75%. And having been to Spain, I can definitely tell you, when you're in the big cities like Barcelona and Madrid, there's people all over the place. As soon as you leave those cities, there is nothing until you hit the next big city. All right, number 3. Why is the population of Northern and Southern Europe growing older? So this is a pretty simple scenario. So they're having fewer children, and then you're also having better medical care, meaning you can live longer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put better medical care. Because if you have better medical care, people will live longer. The higher standard of living you have, the better medical care you have, you end up living longer. All right. And also, since people are having fewer children, your population is going to end up being more older people. Essentially, what's happening is people are having, instead of having several children, they may only be having one child, or they may be having no children, just deciding to live without kids for their entire life. And that brings the overall population age much higher than it would be in places where you have a lot of children. So like India has lots and lots of children, so they have a very low age for their population overall. All right, number 4, we need to circle the definition of homogeneous right here. Homogeneous just means similar. It means they are of the same. Okay, moving on to number 5. What word describes the regional variations of a language? You've probably heard me say this before. If you're one of my students, it's going to be this word right here, dialect. A different dialect will sound different in other areas. This is not to be confused with accents. Some people may have a southern accent, or they may have like a New York accent. They're still speaking the same language though. Dialect refers to actual differences in the way that's spoken. You would notice a dialect difference if you're looking at the way Spanish is spoken in Mexico versus if you went to actually be in Spain. Same thing with French. If you're in French Canada, the French they speak there is going to be different than when you're in France, or it's going to be different from the French spoken in Haiti. Number 6, highlight Italy's contribution to art in one color, highlight Spain's in another. So we have a paragraph here that is entirely dedicated to Italy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that in pink because that's my favorite color. And a nice contrast to pink is going to be blue. So let me grab a blue highlighter here and I'll highlight all of Spain's contributions right here. So now we've got that one all taken care of. Number 7, why do you think Northern Europe's literacy rate is so high? Okay, well, it's nearly 100%, and it has a lot to do with the fact that schooling there is free, and they have very high government support. The governments over in some of these countries, they are very big on educating their population, so they have a very, very strong school system. And especially for some of these Northern European countries like Finland, Finland is one of the highest achieving countries in terms of education in the world. They're actually much higher than the United States is. All right, number 8. How is life in Southern Europe similar to life in the United States? How is it different? So ways that it's similar, they actually have a lot of American food there. What I like to do sometimes is find like a McDonald's there and check it out. They also have some similar TV stations, and a lot of American movies are very popular in Europe. When I went to Germany several years ago, I watched Spider-Man in German at a movie theater there. What's different is obviously they're going to speak a different language, and the climate's going to be somewhat different overall, and then the currency will be different. You can't just walk into some little bakery in Spain and give them American currency. They will look at your dollars and they will give you a very confused look and wonder why you're not paying in euros. All right, we have 9 and 10 to do, and then we're going to go ahead and be done with this section, and you guys can take your chapter quiz over Northern and Southern Europe. Number 9, we just need to underline the passage that explained how Italy's economy improved after World War II. So it's going to be right here. They had a very weak economy after the war. Since then, they've built a strong industrial base. That means they've really started manufacturing a lot of stuff there. All right, number 10, how does welfare capitalism work, and what advantage does it offer the people of Northern Europe? So the government is going to take money, so like taxes essentially, and it uses that money to provide aid for the citizens. So a lot of countries in Europe do something similar to this. What you have happening is usually the government will pay for things like medical care. I guess the best correlation I can explain to you is similar to how the Obamacare system is supposed to work, where everybody in the United States has health care. European countries, a lot of times the government will pay for health care for all their citizens just to make sure people have that coverage. All right, your writing prompts here. How does the economic system of Northern Europe support its high literacy rate? We already kind of talked about that a little bit. Just go back and give like a couple sentences. Number 2, in what ways are the people of Northern Europe similar? Again, go back, look at that. Northern Europe is a fairly similar group because they have similar background, cultures, and everything. Read up on that and just give me a couple sentences. When you guys are done, let me know. I'll get you your chapter quiz. Bye.